Today, I am going to be discussing the disproportionate weight that lands onto the feminine, to women, to the feminine collective as a result of masculine resistance, entitlement, lack of ownership, and accountability. I'm going to be talking about how this shows up relationally, also how this shows up collectively, and how we can properly navigate our way through in a way that rebalances the imbalance, that rebalances the scales. Also, why this is so essential and important on a personal level, a relational level, and a collective level. If you are not familiar with me, my name is Ashtyn Monea. I am a teacher, seer, and mentor for grounded mystics on an evolutionary path. My people are pure-hearted, they are intuitive, they are devoted, and they are committed to anchoring in a new paradigm. If that is you, I highly recommend that if you are not already subscribed to my monthly newsletter series, which this video and teaching transmission is a part of, to go ahead and subscribe to that. There's content through my subscription that you would not be able to access solely through YouTube. Okay, let's drop in. I frequently will point to what I call a gap in collective consciousness between the masculine and in the feminine. We are currently within a stage of humanity where this gap has immensely widened. If you have resistance to that, then you need to drop in and look at that. It is not my responsibility to hold that for you. You would have to at least have that base level understanding that the feminine is actually leading this collective evolutionary process in order to receive the rest of this transmission. This is just an obvious, like if you're grounded in your body, if you're grounded in reality, then you recognize that the feminine has been leading collective evolution. It's actually a part of her role, because the feminine exists within the unseen, where the masculine element is within the seen. And so it is from the unknown that something becomes known. This is why women, especially priestess, oracular, women initiate. They can see, sense, and feel a man beyond where he currently is, because she can see, feel, and sense the beyond within the unknown that hasn't yet become known, lived, breathed, and embodied. This is a part of where feminine impatience arrives, because the feminine actually has been quite patient over a very long period of time while she has been belittled, demeaned, extracted from, harmed, on and on and on and on and on. Men are given this entitled superior position that they have not earned, and that is also not accurate in reality, because women are actually leading, but they are treated as though they are the inferior gender. Because within a patriarchal matrix, what is at its center is the wounded masculine. A wounded masculine is the masculine that has not matured, has not gone through his initiations. That also means resistance to growth and initiations. Entitlement gives you a position you haven't earned. So if you haven't earned it, why would you need to go through initiations in order to arrive into a place that you're already being entitled to, as though you have already arrived there? This is what I mean. These types of dynamics have widened this collective gap between the masculine and the feminine. And then when it comes to something like a relational terrain where the feminine can see, feel, sense, know, has vastly more emotional maturity, attunement, presence, etc., 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 she oftentimes feels like she is dragging him behind her, with her, like he is a true ball and chain. And this is also why women are just cutting the chain and going, I don't need to be with a man if being with a man means that it slows me down. If being with a man means that I have to pretend that I am less than I am. If being with a man means that I have to suppress my deeper feeling, knowing, sight, my actual roles, like my role as a woman, in order to initiate him, to actually challenge him, to have him become the man he was always meant to be. And then he might convert that into nagging, or he might contort a narrative around me that is not actually true for what is happening right here, right now, in this relational moment, to include a moment of challenge where I am not submitting to his conditioning. There's an expectation through a patriarchal matrix that when the wounded masculine is centered, that a woman, to include women who are occupying the true feminine, which I do, and women that I work with are moving into and through, that she get on her knees to serve him, which actually means getting on her knees to serve the patriarchal matrix, which means getting on her knees in order to serve his conditioning, to serve his immaturity, to serve his lack of presence, to serve the very things that ultimately harm her, him, and all of life. Because anything that takes the feminine out of the center position, the true feminine, not the wounded feminine, that's different. If you're interested in this topic, I highly recommend my masterclass. It's called the Recentering the Feminine Masterclass. It goes deep. You will not receive these teachings anywhere else. So if part of your journey is to unravel the patriarchal matrix, to include from your mind, your body, and your spirit, then I highly, highly recommend stepping in to the Recentering the Feminine Masterclass. So when a woman is taught that she's supposed to be outside of the role that she is meant to be in and centering, and the wounded masculine is given this entitled position that it's actually against divine creational principles, foundational principles. It breathes in destruction and anti-life and anti-love, whereas her being centered breathes in birth, love, and life, which all of that equals expansion rather than destruction. A man will expect a woman to literally be with him to her detriment, to her own destruction, unless he is willing to open to receive her, to receive the more of her, to receive her wisdom in a way that she speaks into the content that she is constantly making contact with through a deeper feeling, sensing, seeing, and knowing that exists within the unseen to him, not to her. Women see things that men do not see. And a man who is committed to his conditioning definitely cannot see. He is blinded by the veils, the gaslit fog of his own conditioning. And a woman outside of that matrix, she is constantly inviting the masculine to arrive to her. The more he can receive of her, the more that he can see her, the more he deeply knows her, the more he actually arrives home back into his own roles, his own responsibility in his soul, his path, his purpose, his mission. So women have for a very long time been inviting the masculine. But what happens when the feminine invites the masculine and the masculine gets on his knees to serve a patriarchal matrix, when he refuses to see, when he is in denial, when he is in forms of diminishing the feminine in a way that gaslights both him and her? What happens when he is in resistance? Well, this collective gap in consciousness grows and grows and grows. So let's start looking at this relative to the disproportionate amount of weight that's on the feminine. We have to look at this also like uninitiated man equals boyhood, because that's what it is. And then let's take a woman who moves through her initiations, is committed to her evolutionary process. She is actually embodying womanhood. Womanhood is far closer to the true feminine. What do boys ask of women or mothers? They ask them to take all of their responsibility. They ask for her to be there at his beck and call, even at his tantrum. So this is a huge part of why in relationships in this current day and age that are highly dysfunctional. There's also the codependent matrix, which is also equal to a patriarchal matrix. Won't get into that, but if you're interested in it, make sure to look at my other videos to include about the drama triangle. This then unconsciously, subconsciously requests for a woman that is a partner to be his mom rather than to be more of an equal. Equal in a different sense than humanity typically or humans typically look at it, not equal as in same. Equal as in there's differences here and here. You have your roles and your predispositions, and there are other things there. And I have mine. And we can arrive to each other as different, but partnered equals with reverence, respect, and honor. Oh, I can feel some of the resistance energy to that because it can be difficult for people to understand how the feminine is meant to be centered. And there still is this like partnership and symbiosis that is a sort of equality piece. She is always going to be more, period. She's always going to be more. The unseen is more. The feminine is the ocean. The feminine is the infinite, whereas masculine in its base code is linear. It is limited. And so she's always going to be more. This is also why in male to female relationships, typically a man has difficulty with not feeling enough. Because when the more of the feminine calls him into his more, he receives it as though he is less rather than the opportunity that she is gifting to him for him to arrive into his more. Do you see what I mean? So there's so many different dynamics here, and I work with couples and also individuals that are in high level relational, let's say that they're occupying high level relational terrain. It's not like the typical dysfunctional human relationships. They're moving those things into more health and alignment. And so there are a lot of layers to this, and I can only, of course, offer but so much inside of this teaching transmission today. So when the masculine does not develop himself, he is basically in all of it's like putting absence inside of the places where he was meant to become. This is why I also say we have an epidemic of the missing masculine, because boys don't arrive into true masculinity. And so all of the places that he has not arrived, right, that creates this gap between him and her. It's literally what he has put between them by not arriving to meet her. Oh, I can feel the grief around that now in the feminine collective. It's pretty strong. I can feel the wave of it. And if you're listening as a woman, especially as like an oracular woman, a priestess type, a woman that's meant to initiate, and you see and you feel more, you're intuitive, you're mystic, you're going to feel this way, way more than someone who is not aware. You're going to know what I'm saying way, way more than someone who is not aware. What happens then is that this weight, all of the things that she sees and knows that he is meant to be and could become, he takes the responsibility of that because he's not taking accountability for it. He's not taking ownership for his own part. And he literally displaces it onto her. And he asks for her, mommy, to do his alchemy. He asks for her to take on his own shadow material. Because how does this, for example, show up in relationships? Well, if you are not willing to actually come into ownership and accountability with your own conditioning, your own shadow material, your bloodline work, like the ancestral components, if you're not willing to tend to your own traumas, on and on and on, what happens in a relationship? You are expecting the other person to tend to what you are not tending to, because all of those things will arrive through relational dynamics. And then if someone is impacted, your partner, let's say your female partner is impacted by what it is that you have not taken accountability for, what you have not healed yourself, what you have not allowed to come into your realm of awareness. Well, it's going to hurt her. And then if she goes, ow, that hurt me, let me speak about the truth in this scenario. Let me speak about how this has impacted me. And then let's say when she goes, hey, this is how this has impacted me. This is how I'm now feeling. And then a man who hasn't developed himself through emotional maturity, he's like, no, I don't have the capacity to even feel or receive the way that I impacted your feelings. So what is he doing? He's asking her to carry the impact onto her from the lack of accountability, ownership, and awareness that he is refusing in that moment. And then when she is literally sitting there going, ow, he's like, I'm going to leave now. You're going to have to deal with that. Do you see what I'm talking about relative to the scales? So the masculine then takes their stuff and expects the feminine to hold it, to process it on her own, which she cannot do. She can't actually process it on her own. She can be with herself, but she cannot actually process it in the sense that he's going to keep showing up with that same dynamic, and he's going to keep harming her and impacting her over and over and over again until and unless he addresses what is behind the unseen that he is refusing and resisting to actually take ownership, accountability for, and come into states of maturity and development that he is refusing. So in his absence, the feminine is expected to carry every single thing that the masculine hasn't tended to. Now, I'm talking about this relationally, but this is also collectively. The masculine collective has been expecting that the feminine literally take in his shadow material, his trauma, his bloodline and ancestral issues, his patriarchal imprinting and conditioning, his lack of emotional maturity, so emotional laboring, his like the I'm not enough, these ideas that he's incapable, therefore he can't meet her. He's like, I'm incapable. I literally can't. Which is bullshit. I work with men and I have a whole thing about incapability and readiness. That's an idea. That's a limited belief. That's not actually truth. So all of that, he takes it, and when he weights it over here into her terrain, where does it go? Where does it go? Well, he asked her to carry it in her womb. Carry all of my dysfunction in your womb. He literally is asking her to consent her creational center that bursts things into this world to rebirth his conditioning, to sign off on his conditioning, to sign off on his lack of accountability. It is literally to sign off on the patriarchal matrix and the imprinting so that they can be put back into the field. So women who are stepping away from relationship, just some of them just altogether, they're like, I'm not going to have any relationships in this way, a romantic way with men anymore. Part of why that's happening is because women are actually refusing to carry what is his and not hers. And they're also in this way refusing to sign off on it, therefore also reproduce it into this world through relational dynamics and contracts that we consent to in unhealthy relationships. So the feminine's going, if you're not going to meet me, I'm no longer going to meet you all the way back here. You keep asking me to go all the way back here, lean out of myself and to lean into what is yours, what actually harms me, what is dysfunctional. I'm not coming out of myself anymore. I will not be leaning into you in that way. And then when men go, okay, well, I refuse. I literally refuse to grow. I refuse to meet you. What option does she have? What options really is she left with? This is it. She's left with the option to leave, to be with just herself, to be here, to leave him, but to be deeply present with herself. Now, this doesn't mean that it resolves the problem. The problem literally cannot be resolved without men taking ownership for what is theirs. This collective gap in consciousness, the feminine can't do his work, which is a part of this problem because men have been expecting women to literally do their work, and it doesn't work. So there are women that arrive into this type of predicament and then they go, okay, I'm just going to completely go here and this is the solution. And it's like, okay, well, that's a way of navigating it in a way that honors you. However, the problem continues because the problem isn't hers to resolve. It never was. It wasn't even hers to carry for him ever. And her carrying it in this way for so long is a part of what has amplified this distance between them and this problem. That's a part of, again, a codependent matrix and enabling. I am a woman who is meant to initiate. That includes built. Like I'm literally built to initiate men. My work with men is like, it's unbelievably rare to find this type of work. And there are men that are called into my life. Like I'm called to them and they're called to me. And moments in time, let's say, is guided by the current of the goddess, because it's like this current comes in and then somehow it brings me in contact with a man and a man in contact with me. And I'm like, okay, here's the evolutionary opportunity. The evolutionary opportunity isn't 6 months from now. Okay. Because men will go, I'm not ready. Maybe in like 6 months, I'll be ready. Sorry, not sorry for my tone, because this is actually what you're emanating. The opportunity is literally right here, right fucking now. I'd be like, I think I just need to be alone. I think I just need to be like in isolation. And that's how I'm going to evolve. And it's like, you are literally saying no to the evolutionary opportunity that is in front of you right here, right now. I am soul gold. I am treasure that is immensely rare. For a man to be brought to me and me brought to him in this particular kind of way, and for him to go, no, is literally him saying no to one of the rarest opportunities that will ever cross his path, if not the rarest in this entire life. You spend time with me and you can literally be expediting the amount of earth incarnations that you will have, like a lot. And they're like, no, I'm not ready. Okay, but when will you be ready? Because this readiness factor is actually a part of your resistance. It is not actually true. The current of the goddess wouldn't have brought you to me and me to you if it was like, he's not ready. That's not how this aligns. This is not how this happens. So even though I am what I am, I endlessly witness men rejecting their initiations. And every time a man rejects his initiations, do you know what happens for me? Okay, dear, I guess I can feel it. I can feel it in the feminine collective. He is literally going, I'm not willing to take on even 1% of what you have been expecting I have been expecting you to carry as a part of the feminine collective. I'm saying that I'm incapable of carrying even 1% more. And you're saying that to a woman that is carrying exponentially more. Like, let's say that it was 95% she's carrying, and the masculine is carrying 5%. She goes, I just need a percentage more. That's all I'm asking in this moment so we can continue onward. A percentage more. Can you meet me 6% so that I have 94? And then he's like, that's too much. That's too much. I can't carry that. I am incapable of even a fraction of a percent more. You're literally saying to the feminine that is carrying exponentially more than you, that it's not possible. And she is the proof that it is possible. So this is a part of how it is so very deeply untrue. And this is a part of a patriarchal imprint that is imprinted into men, into their psyche and their body, to tell them that they're incapable, to tell them that they're not enough, to tell them that they have limits that actually are not the true limits. They're glass ceilings. The imprints go, you can only go here, you can't go here. Because a patriarchal matrix needs men only here. If men go here, it changes the whole game. The scales start to actually rebalance. We literally bring this planet back into a restoration. We bring ourselves personally, individually, and relationally into forms of wholeness that break through the glass ceilings of a patriarchal matrix. It doesn't allow that paradigm to exist any longer. So this is why those imprints can feel so real. But I'm telling you right now, they are untrue. There is no part of it that is actually true. Not when an opportunity arrives to you that literally says, hey, you can do this. So the disproportionate amount of weight that lands onto women is deeply harmful. It is deeply unfair. The way that men are resisting their initiations is a huge, huge part of this. The patriarchal imprinting, the blocks and conditioning, also a huge, huge part of this. I'm going to read you something that I posted on my Facebook. That's where I'm most active. So if you are over there, I definitely recommend following me there. And this is how I'm going to kind of end this transmission for us, because I feel like it nicely sums up much of what I've been sharing. The disproportion of weight onto the feminine is, and long has been, outrageously unjust. Men who choose, okay, there's a choosing, incapability, as though they cannot take a single step forward to hold an increment more of weight that has long been displaced onto her, while she is expected to carry both what is hers and his, with her mouth closed, her eyes shut, her feeling body ignored, in submission to his conditioning, the single most destructive force on this planet. To normalize the harm and impact upon her as a result of his lack of accountability and resistance, it's outrageous. The degree she is unmet and unsupported while being expected to meet and support, the weight she carries heavier than he can fathom while he says, I can't lift another finger, and is treated like the superior gender. The way she is asked to have compassion for what is ongoingly disregarded, harmed, and belittled her, while expecting her to be more with less, while he is less with more. Rebalancing the scales requires male participation and willingness. When a woman, especially an oracle, asked you to meet her, take the fucking step. Instead of expecting her to lean into and accept your absence, along with every impact your absence has upon her into this collective. Feminine outrage, capital R-A-G-E. Women, you are allowed to be angry about this. Don't have a man tell you you're not allowed to be angry. If you are, for example, your voice or your tone raises in a moment out of frustration, but you are not actually screaming at him, you are not belittling him, you are not name calling him, this is a part of where he is meant to actually create space for your experience, because him telling you you can't have your experience is so that he doesn't have to meet the pain that is within you as a result of the masculine and the impact onto her. Do you see what I'm saying? He says for you to suppress yourself rather than to express yourself, so that he doesn't have to actually process what it is that the feminine is truly feeling and how deeply she is aching. So feminine outrage is more than warranted. The whole collective collapses while the masculine refuses to step in. This is what I mean. It requires male participation. Literally, new paradigms are not born without him. So as long as the masculine fails to step in, which the feminine is meant to invite, that is her role. Okay. Her role is to invite him into terrain that is not yet known to him. His role is to step in. So when men are not occupying their role, that's a part of the resistance. That's a part of why they are not stepping in. When you do not step in, that space is blank. This means your presence where it's meant to be has absence, and she can feel it, and it impacts her. Literal worlds fall into themselves when he refuses to arrive. As a woman meant to initiate men, I am tired of watching them frivolously refuse the rarest and most bountiful opportunities to evolve. If you are a woman in like the grief, like you're listening to this and you're just like, I feel the grief so deeply. I feel it all the way through my body, beyond even this earth plane, like into this space of the feminine collective, because yes, this is a major issue on earth, but it expands even beyond this plane. Just know that you are not alone. I'm a woman who feels all of that. I'm a woman who works with all of that. I'm a woman that knows all of that. I'm a woman here that's meant to transform all of that. And so if that is a part of your world, a part of your work, I am for you and you are for me. I can support you with that. You don't need to walk it alone in the way that women are expected to walk it alone, because I will be here with you, walking it side by side you. And I am so sorry. I am so sorry that men are asking you and asking us to carry what is theirs. And we have to, in a way, sit back and witness the devastation inside of this world as a result of his absence. It is deeply unjust. It is deeply unfair. And of course, you feel. There's grief, there's sadness, there's heartbreak, there's rage. Of course you feel. You have permission to feel. I hope that this transmission has been supportive too. If it has, feel free to let me know in the comments how, if you're part of my newsletter subscription, you are also free to email me in response to how this transmission has landed for you. Make sure to like, subscribe, and also share. Share. This is rare wisdom in the world that I am all of the time bringing through. And so please support my mission and my messages into this world, especially because I come up against so much resistance, because what I have to say and what I have to share is pure, true, deep. So please support my mission by sharing with those you feel could be resonant and with your communities and loved ones. As always, so much love to each and every one of you.